Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar presentation, Work Transparency, How Much Do You Know? We have a few logistics to cover before we get started. Everyone will be muted for the duration of today's presentation. However, should you have any questions, I will be monitoring the chat module, so please feel free to chat with me there. This webinar is being recorded and will be distributed a little later today along with the PDU information, which Matthew will also share at the end of today's webinar. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to EPM Life Product Manager, Matthew Willey.
Thank you, Morgan. All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining today. The goal of today is the presentation is to talk a little bit about work transparency. So what is work transparency? Well, really it's the ability to have visibility or transparency into what's going on with your work, right? And what allows us to do that at best is reports, basically. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is the EPM Live reporting solution and how it allows you to gather all of that data from all of that work, all of the costs associated, anything associated to that work that you're capturing and tracking. To be able to capture that, we have a tool called the reporting solution. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how it allows you to gather all of that data. Once you have all the data together, then there's multiple different tools within EPM Live that you can use to generate these reports. There's very simple reports, there's more complex reports, and depending on the nature of the report that you're looking for, the different tools might be a better fit. So one tool might be a better fit than a different type of reporting tool within the system. So the goal today is to really talk about the different tools, what's their strengths, which ones are better for what, and give you a better idea of the different reporting features that are available within EPM Live. So we'll go ahead and start out here with the reporting solution. So really what the reporting solution is, it's a database. It's a way, it's a place where all of the data goes into, so you have one standard location where you can go to pull all of the data out for your reports. Now some of the reports just automatically pull the data out for you and you don't have to know that it's even there or that it's working behind the scenes. Whereas with some of the reports, some of the a little bit more, I guess, more complex reports allow you to connect directly into that database, select certain tables and those types of things. But the goal is really just to make a very flexible system. So if there's custom data that you're tracking, meaning you added a new custom field to your project data or to your issue data, it's very flexible. You can add that into the reporting database, and it actually does it all by itself. As well as if you were to add a whole new custom list, you want to start tracking risks, or you want to start tracking service requests, or whatever it might be, those things can be added into the reporting solution at any time. The data is also real-time, most of it anyway. So for example, when I go into the system and I edit a project, or I create an issue, or I create a task, whatever it might be, it will in real time push that data into the reporting database. So after you've created that task or updated that project, if you go run your report again, it's going to show that updated data. There is some data that gets calculated nightly, things like timesheet data, things that don't necessarily need to be in real time and are calculated nightly for performance reasons, but pretty much most of the data is all real time. There's also time phase data available for you. So what that means is that if you want to be able to track how something changed over time, for example, what was the count of issues in the system on this date? What was the count of issues in the system on another date? And you can show that over time and see a trend. Hopefully that trend is going down. Your issues are decreasing. The amount of open issues are decreasing over time. You can start to see those type of trending type reports using the time phase portion of the reporting solution. And the way it does that time phase part is it takes a snapshot each day. So you can set it up so that every day at a certain time, and it can do it every day or every week or every month depending on what type of report you're trying to create. It'll basically just take a picture of the system, of what data was in the system at that time, and then when you're creating the report you can show how that data has changed over time. So all in all, the reporting solution just helps you to create your reports that you need to create easier. So just to give you an idea of how that looks and where it sits kind of in the middle of all the different tools that EPM Live gives, is you have EPM Live down at the very bottom, Above that, you can see there's lots of different data that sits within EPM Life, projects, tasks, issues, etc. Whatever the different data types are that you're capturing. That can be 10 different data types, 15 different data types. It just depends what apps you have installed, etc. And then basically we're taking all of that data, we're pooling it into the reporting solution. That way it's available to all of our different reporting tools, being Upline Analytics, SSRS, all the different tools that we're going to talk about here in a second. So just so you get an idea of how that's structured. So the first tool that you can use to get data out of the reporting solution is Upline Analytics. Upline Analytics is a new tool that's available in our very latest release of 5.5. For those of you that are on 2010, if you already are using EPM Live on 4.3, I believe was the last version, the newest version for our 2010 folks will also have this feature in it as well, so you'll be able to take advantage of that very soon here within the next few weeks. I believe it's scheduled to be released. So, but basically, there was a need within the system to be able to have people create their own reports without having to talk to a developer and still be able to create fairly complex reports. So Upline Analytics allows you to do just that. It's very easy to use, but it also has a lot of features. So you can create some fairly complex reports and dashboards and those types of things without having to write SQL queries and code and anything like that. It's all user interface right within the system. So the goal of this is really to empower users, not necessarily very technical users, but maybe like a functional manager or someone like that who needs to create their own reports. And also for IT could still use this tool to create reports for the business as well. But it can empower people to be able to create their own reports on demand and play around with them and do what they need to do fairly easily with not too much training, not too complicated. So Upline Analytics is a new tool that we're really proud to have, and we're going to show that later on today. I'll be showing all these different tools so you can kind of see how they look and feel after we go through this brief overview here. So if you're looking to empower someone to be able to write their own reports, Upline Analytics is a great tool. As well as if you need a report and you need it quickly and you don't want to take the time to detail it out in using SQL and SSRS and those other types of tools, which we'll talk about in a little bit, then this is really a great option for you. So a few examples of reports that you can create using the Upline Analytics tool. You can see here you can create dashboards. And with the dashboards, you basically create a set of reports, and you can plop them into a dashboard. You can see at the very top leftish there, you can put filters on it so people can change the data that they're seeing within that dashboard very easily. Say, for example, I just want to see all completed issues or all in progress issues or not started. You can click that filter there and choose, and it'll update right there in front of you. So that's one good use of Upline Analytics. It allows you to do really quick, easy, but powerful dashboards. You can also do things like pivot tables. So there's some pretty advanced features in here. A pivot table, for those of you that don't know, is basically a report that shows data on columns that don't really exist. For example, in this report, we're looking at projects, and we're looking at the count of tasks over time. Now, you can see where it says 2012 August, 2012 September, 2012 October. That data doesn't actually exist. The tool, Upline Analytics, meaning, is smart enough to be able to aggregate that data into those different time periods and show it like this. And so that's a really cool feature that not a lot of tools have. Excel, for example, is one tool that does have that capability, but a lot of reporting tools don't have the capability to create pivot tables, so it is a really nice feature of Upline Analytics. You can also do things like gauges, as well as this this dashboard right here is a drill-in dashboard, so it does have drill-in capabilities as well. So for example, I'm looking at a percentage of overdue tasks for different portfolios, and you can see some are doing better than others. If I was having problems with one, I could then click on one of those gauges and it would actually link me in and show me some more detailed information about the tasks for that specific portfolio. And you can kind of set it up to drill in through the level. So I go from the portfolio level, drill into the project level, see how the different projects within that portfolio are doing, and you can go all the way down to the detailed information if you set it up to do so. So it has some really great drill-in capabilities as well that are fairly easy to set up. So with that said, another type of reporting within the system is what we call live KPIs. So live KPIs are very different from an Upline Analytic report. Live KPIs is when you're in the system and you're looking at your list of projects or your list of tasks or whatever it might be, right next to those list items, you can show these KPIs. They just give you a quick idea of how it's doing. It's either red, green, or yellow, something like that. And it's just a quick, easy way when you're in the system and you're browsing around to see if there's a problem. You don't have to go somewhere else and run a report and pick which projects you want to see it for and those different types of things like that. It's just while I'm in the system browsing around, I can see these KPIs, and that really is a form of reporting. So the nice thing here is it's quick and easy. It's also easy to understand, so when users come into the system, they say, hey, it's green, green is good. I like that. And it's also integrated right into the view, so you don't have to know to go somewhere else or whatever it might be. For example, right when you go to the home page, you'll see a list of your projects and KPIs and those types of things, depending on what you have on your home page. So they're really quick, they're really easy. There's not much effort into setting them up, and we'll look at them later. But they can be very powerful in the sense that it gives you a quick idea of how things are going with either the project or portfolio or whatever the KPI is generated around. Excuse me. The next type of reports are what we call live charts. So live charts are charts that you see throughout the system, and they're kind of filtered into different areas. And we'll take a look at and see what these look and feel like. But basically the idea is if you want to do a simple chart and you want to put it wherever you want to put it, it doesn't necessarily have to be on a reports page. You can create a view within your projects area, and you just switch to that view and you see these charts, and you can create a whole dashboard. If you put multiple charts together, you can create a dashboard using it. So it's I would call it light dashboarding features. If you just want to show some things like pie charts or a simple bar chart, you set it up very similarly to like an Excel report. You pick your x-axis, you pick your y-axis, you pick some different different parameters around it, and it's very quick and easy to set up, and you can create these really nice charts that people can see, and you can put them on home pages, and you can put them on dashboard pages, and you can put them really anywhere you want. So they're really flexible. So key things is it's quick and easy, right? It's very easy to set these up. It doesn't require someone with a lot of technical knowledge to be able to do this, especially once you've done it a couple of times. And second of all, it's also user interactive in the sense that there's a filter that you can connect up to them that we'll look at that allows you to pick and choose what data you want to see in the chart. So for example, I have 10 different projects going on, but in this particular chart, I only want to see the data for one project, let's say. You can pick and choose and say, I just want to see it for this project, and it'll update and it'll show you that accordingly. So they're really nice, quick, easy ways to get some more graphical data out of the system. The next type of reporting is Excel. So some of the key pros of Excel is, one, it's very ad hoc, right? A lot of people know how to use Excel. They're familiar with Excel. And that allows it to be ad hoc in the sense that as long as they have access to connect into that same reporting solution that we talked about earlier, they can connect into that reporting solution. You can create pivot tables and charts and everything that you know how to do in Excel, and take that data that's all in EPM Live and create your own ad hoc reports. So if that's familiar to your user base and that's something that they want to use, it's definitely an option, and it can be a really good option, especially for ad hoc reports and people that are already familiar with Excel. The next type of reports are SSRS reports. So SSRS stands for SQL Services Reporting Services, or SQL Server Reporting Services, I'm sorry. And there's a few main uses of SQL Reporting Services reports. So basically, if you're looking to create a report and it needs to look exactly a certain way and it needs to be formatted exactly a certain way, and you want it to fit on a page really nicely with some specific formatting and all of those types of things, and you want to do very specific things, you're able to create very packaged reports that allow you to go in, run the report, export it out to a PDF or something like that. And by the way, Upline Analytics allows you to export to PDFs and email them to people and all those other different types of things. But the key here is that you can make it look exactly how you want it to look. The sizing of things, the sizing of the font, it's all customizable. Now with that, it's very, it's packaged and it's flexible, but it also requires more time and effort to create these reports because you have to go in and define all of these different things and, make it how you want to make it. It's a lot more flexible, and with that it makes it a lot more difficult to create those reports. But if you have people that are familiar with this technology, and it's usually more developer types of people, although there's a tool called Report Builder which makes it a little bit easier to create SSRS reports. You can use that, and you can do that within the system, as well as out of the box we provide you with lots of these SSRS reports already created, and we'll take a look at some of those and what they look like and how they look and feel and those things. A cool thing is you could always start from an existing SSRS report that we have provided and just modify it a little bit to do anything extra that it needs to do. So you have some different options there. So an example of some SSRS reports, you can see here's a budget dashboard. And you can see everything is formatted, and you can drag and drop these and move them around and put it exactly how you want it, and you can say this bar is going to be a certain color based on this, and this bar is going to be a certain color based on that, and you have just a lot of control over how things look and feel within an SSRS report. So now that we've talked about all the different types of reporting within the system, I wanted to take a minute to go look at some of them and give you a brief demo of what these look and feel like, and then how you access them within the system as well, just to kind of tie it all together and make sure we're all on the same page. So I'm going to jump out of my presentation here real quick. And I'm in the EPM Live demo site right now. And we have some good data in here, so we'll be able to look at some of the different reports. So the first thing I wanted to talk a little bit more about is the reporting solution, just to make sure everyone's clear on that and show you how that works. So in order to get into, to modify the reporting solution and add extra data to it and those types of things, you have to be a site collection administrator to do this, so you do need to have high level of permissions. This is more of an administrator function. This isn't something a normal user like a project manager or something would be using. But if I have those permissions, I can come here into settings, and I can click on reporting settings. And even if you're not an administrator, it's still good to be able to know that these things can be done and how easy it is to do it. So for an example, I added a new list into EPM Live, and I want to now start creating reports on that list of data, right? So I'm now tracking risks, or I'm now tracking changes, or whatever it might be. To add it in so that you can start creating reports on it, all you do is come into this reporting settings page. I click Actions, and then I'll hit Add List. And then I just choose which list that I want to add. So it's going to show me here all the different lists within the system that are not yet added into my reporting database, and then I can choose and say, okay, I want to add the team list in, or I want to add my links list, or whatever it might be. Announcements, and maybe I want to do a report on announcements. You come in, you select that list, and then it's going to tell you all the different fields that are within that list, and you can choose. So these are like your title field, your owner field, whatever fields that you have in that particular list, they're all going to show up here, and you can just say check all if you just want all of them. Hit save, and then it's going to add this into your reporting solution. That way you can now start creating reports off of this particular list. So it makes it really easy to do. With that said, also in the future then, if I was going to add a new field, right? I want to start capturing around announcements. I want to start capturing the date and time that it was created or something like that. You would create that field. It would automatically show up here, and it actually automatically checks it for you, so you don't even have to come back in to do it. But if for whatever reason you hadn't checked it before, and now you want to start reporting off of it, you just come in, check the box, hit save, and you're done. So instead of having to go into a database and create another extra tables and create the connections and all these things, it makes it really easy for you to update what data you're reporting on right through the tool right here. So that's kind of the core and the base of all this, so that's why that's very important to understand. So once you have that set up and you're capturing the correct data in your reporting database, now you can start to build reports. So one type of report within the system that we talked about was the Upline Analytics. So we're going to go ahead and start out with that. The Upline Analytics tool is all web-based, so there's nothing that you have to download onto your computer to be able to create these types of reports. It's all right within the tool here. When I click on Upline Analytics, it's going to load it for me. And this tool that allows me to view the reports will also allow me to create the reports, assuming I have permissions to do so. There are two groups in the system. There's a report viewer group and a report writer group. So if you're not a writer, you don't have access to do that. So you can lock it down so that not everybody can just come in and create reports. But if there's certain key people that would be valuable to, you can give them access to do so. So you can see there's lots of different types of reports in here. What I want to do real quick is I want to create what's called an instant report. So as I mentioned, you can create reports right from within the system right here. So I'm going to go ahead and say new instant report. And what I'm looking at here are all of the tables in my reporting database. Now, when I added extra tables there, they actually would then show up here. So, for example, if I added my tasks list, it's called Task Center is the name of that list. This table here called LST Task Center then shows up. Maybe I want to do an issues report. Here's my LST issues table. So that's going to do that. We talked a bit about snapshots before. If you want to do a trending report, there's a similar table called LST issues snapshot. If you're taking snapshots, you can use that to do a trending report. But we're just going to do a simple report on the data that's in the system right now, let's say on issues. So all I have to do is I can check the box here for LST issues, and then it shows me all of the different data that I'm capturing around issues. Priority, who's the owner, what project is this issue related to, all of those different types of things. It breaks up the data for me into the different types of data. So this is all my text data, meaning it's all just text. These are all my dates. All my date fields are here, and then these are all of my number fields, meaning numbers and percents. Those types of things. I also have what they call identifiers down here. That's a little bit more technical thing. It's like the ID of the project. Those types of things would all be considered identifiers. Generally, you don't really need to use those, though. But let's say we want to make a quick report here. For example, I want to show the title of the issue. And all I do is I grab my title field here and I just drag and drop it up into my preview window. And it's going to show me what my report looks like. Maybe that's all I need. I just want a list of all the issues and their titles. That's my report. I'm done. I can save this and go. But let's say we want a few other things. I want to also show, let's say, the status of these issues. I can drag and drop status here, and I can put that there. If you want to do some special things, you can hit the little button here and you can say, I want to visually group by status. So I can check that instead, and now it's going to visually group it by status. And we'll see that now we're seeing here's all of our completed issues, and here's the list of them. Here's all of our in-progress ones, not started issues, and so on and so forth. So right here, I can create these reports very quickly, very easily, just with dragging and dropping. Now let's get really cool. I want to know who the project manager is of the project for these particular issues. So in the past, with other tools, especially like SSRS, for example, you'd have to write a SQL join statement to join this data together. It's not that hard to write the statement, but it's just something that a lot of people don't know how to do, and they're not familiar with SQL, and unless you are, it can be fairly difficult to understand and figure out how to do that, or to even know how to do it. In here, you don't even have to know what that means. All I have to do is go, okay, I want the project manager, which is in the project information. So I come in here, and I'll say LST Project Center, and I can just drag and drop that information in. Or maybe I want to know the portfolio manager. I can come in here and select the portfolio manager and drag and drop fields from that in there. And it's just going to join the data all together for me and create this report without me having to really know or do much. I just throw the data that I want to see in there, and I can see the report as I'm doing it. So it's really cool to be able to create these reports on the fly and you know, join the data together and get the reports that you need to get. Now, if I want to then create a chart from this, or you know, those different types of things, I can hit this design report button here, and from here I can do more things. So that might have been enough for me. That might be my report, and I'm good. If I want to do anything extra, then I can come into here and I can say, okay, I want to add a chart, and what's my chart type? It's a pie chart, or it's a bar chart, or whatever it might be, and you pick an x-axis and a y-axis and all those different types of things, and you can do that. But there's some really cool features in here. For example, there's an email button. I think it's under miscellaneous here. I can set this up, for example, if I wanted to email to someone every day at 8 o'clock, and I want to repeat every day or every weekday or every week, whatever it might be, you can do cool things, and I want to send this email with a link to the report, or actually want to embed the report in it, or I want it to be a PDF, right? So there's some really cool advanced features in here, but it's, as you can see, it's really easy to set these things up. Just with a little bit of training and knowing where these things are, which tab to go to basically, it's very easy to set these things up and create some really powerful reports that are going to get people the information that they need to see. So we're really excited about that, and we've got a lot of good feedback about it so far from people that have started using it, and so it's definitely something that you may want to look into when you start using EPM Live, or if you're already using EPM Live, you might want to upgrade and get to that as soon as possible. All right, so that's Upline Analytics. The next type of reports that I wanted to talk about were live KPIs. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the home page here. And you can see right on the home page, we have some live KPIs. So right here I have a web part called My Active Projects. It's showing all of the active projects that I have going on right now. And these KPIs here are the live KPIs that we're talking about. So they show me, budget status is good, schedule status is good. On this particular project, issue status is not good. So I want to go look into that and see what's going on. But they're just quick indicators. Some things you should know about live KPIs is that you can make them calculated, so that, for example, if there's more than 5 overdue issues, I want it to show red. If there's between 0 and 5, I want it to show yellow, and if there's less than 0 overdue issues, I want it to be green. You can control those types of things, and it's very easy to change those, and we have documentation on that if you're interested, as well as there's training classes, etc. But basically, you can control, how and when these change to red, green, and yellow, and those types of things. The other option that you have with live KPIs is you can make them manual KPIs. So basically, for an example, if I was to edit this project here, and I want to, for other people's status, I want to make this work status here red. I could come in here, I could edit my item, and I can say work status is red, and I just change that value. And the KPI would adjust so-called, based on what I did there. So you can calculate it based on actual data, or you can let people pick and choose which indicators they want to show for their projects. And for some cases, one or the other makes better sense. For example, it's a little hard to calculate work status. How do you know if your work is doing bad? Meaning you're using too many hours comparatively to how many work hours were budgeted, right? Well, if we're only halfway done with the project, of course we're not going to be over our amount of work, because we're only halfway through the project. How much work should be done, or you can calculate those types of things, but it's a little difficult to do. So a lot of people like to just do it manually and say, you know what, from what I see in my project schedule, everything looks okay, or everything looks bad, or whatever it might be. So you can give people the opportunity to kind of control their own indicators. So the live KPIs are really nice. They're spread throughout the system. If I was to go to projects here, you'll see those. If I go to tasks, there's some on tasks out of the box. And keep in mind, you can add as many of these as you need. So if there's a different type of indicator that you want people to be able to display for their projects or issues or tasks, those can be added into the system and set up however you need to show that information very quickly, very easily. Another type of reports that we talked about that we'll go ahead and take a look at now is the live charts. So a good example of the live charts is if I switch here to my project dashboard view, we have a series of live charts that all come together to create a dashboard. So this particular dashboard is looking at project information. So I can see here I have something showing number of projects by state, number of projects by type, budget versus actuals by project, right? There's all these different charts that you can do here. And they're all, you just kind of drag and drop them on the page and pick an X and a Y axis, and they're very easy to set up, but you can see while I'm within the site, it's a nice, easy way to look at the data and get a more graphical representation of the data without having to go and run a report type of thing. They're also user interactive, as I mentioned, in the sense that I can come in and say, okay, I just want to see all of the proposed projects. I'm not interested in active projects right now. And I can select that, and then it's going to tell me which projects are proposed, and from there, I'm just interested in this Microsoft Exchange upgrade one. I can check that, and then I'll hit filter, and it'll actually update my dashboard here just to show the data for that specific project that I selected. So it's a really cool feature to be able to do that kind of on the fly as you're looking at the different data. And that particular project doesn't seem to have any data, but you get the idea. So the next type of reports that I wanted to take a look at, well, first Excel reports, but I figure everybody's pretty familiar with the Excel reports, so I don't really need to show those. But anything that you can do in an Excel report that you're familiar with doing, you can connect into this data, and we do have documentation on how to do that. But you can connect into that reporting solution data, and you can build any Excel report that you want. So with that said, we'll go ahead and skip here to SQL Reporting Services reports. So for our SQL Reporting Services reports, there's many of them out of box. It's over here on the far right. You can see there's a little guy here that says Reporting Services Reports. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. You'll see there's different categories of reports. Depending on the apps that you've added, you'll have more or less categories there. But like if you added a risk app, it'll add risk reports in here, those types of things. And then within each category, there's different subcategories, and some of them, the ones that have a lot of reports anyway, for example, projects, there's lots of different project reports in here. If I start to expand the different subcategories, you'll see there's lots and lots of different reports. So, the goal is that when you start using EPM Live, whatever reports you're looking for are already here. If there's anything that you need to create above and beyond that, you can use Upline Analytics, or you could take one of these reports and modify it. But the goal is to allow you to get the data out of the system, get that visibility, that transparency, without having to do a lot of extra work. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these reports and how it works and what it looks like and how people run them. So one that I like is the project dashboard. It's in my drill and dashboards category here. I'll go ahead and open up my project dashboard. So within most of the SQL Reporting Services reports, there's a set of what we call parameters over here on the far right. And that just means what data do I want to see within this report. So for this report, I pick a set of projects. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all of my projects. I want to see the budgets and how they're all compared for all of my projects. Then you pick a start date and a finish date. So I want to see this report, let's say, for the whole year of 2013. I want to see what our budgets were like all year long. So I'll come here to January and I'll go to December 2013. Then I hit apply, and what it's doing now is it's going into that reporting solution. It's aggregating all of the data. It pulls it up and it puts that in here for this very nice report for me. So you can see, and this was one of the screenshots I actually had in the presentation earlier as well, but you can kind of see how you get to it and run it, and it's not something that where you're working on your project and it's just right there. You need to go to reports, you need to launch the report, but what you can get out of it is a very detailed result, right? I can make this look exactly like I want it. These things right here are actually showing if your actual cost is above your benefits, it turns red by a certain percent. If it's just a little bit of a percent over it, then it's yellow. If it's below it, it's green. You can see here that one's green. So it's actually doing some very specific things, and it's aggregating the data in very specific ways, and that's really one of the key components and features of SQL Reporting Services reports. From there, then you can package them up, and I can hit Actions, and I can export this to PDF or Excel or Word. I can subscribe to these reports and say, I want to be emailed this report if one of these goes red, or if every week, or whatever it might be. There is a subscription type functionality that you can sign up to get these reports at different points in time. So that's kind of a neat feature as well. But the key is it's fairly difficult to create these types of reports. You have to have some technical knowledge and a technical background and understand SQL and those types of things, whereas like an Upline Analytics tool is going to be much easier to generate a report, but you don't have quite as much control over it. So with that said, that's all the different types of reports that we covered today. And I'm going to go ahead and jump back into my presentation here. So hopefully you now understand the reporting solution. You understand the different reporting tools that we have available within EPM Live and which ones are good for what types of reports. So depending on the what output you're looking for, you can pick and choose hopefully a little bit better which reporting tool that you're going to use. And ultimately, it's to give you that transparency, right, into what's going on with the work, what's going on with our budgets, what's going on with our costs, all of those different types of data that's going on with your work. You can get a better idea and visibility into what's going on, so you can start to make decisions of how do we fix this, how do we make this better. Oh, we're doing really good there, let's replicate that, those types of things. So I want to say thank you all for your time today and coming out. We do have some PDU information here. If you want to jot that number down, you'll be able to get a PDU for this particular presentation. So thank you very much for joining. If you have any other questions, I think Morgan was taking them down and we'll get back to you. Morgan, did you have any other closing statements for us?
No. Thanks everybody again for joining us, and I will be sending out the webinar recording and the PDU number just as a second reference a little later this afternoon. So thank you so much, Matthew, and we'll go ahead and close down the webinar now. So thanks everybody. Have a wonderful day.